Hey friends, and welcome to my Leaguestarter for the PoE Affliction League. With so many new mechanics to try, it has been really hard to keep on course for the build that I've chosen, but I'm really excited to see how far I can push this one. So this is the Fire Burst Chieftain, a League Start Autobomber. Okay, so the autobombing doesn't actually happen until well into maps, but let's get into the build. So this build is taking a risk and embracing a normally low DPS build and relying on a couple of mechanics to get us through tough fights. This approach means that we can focus on clear and let our ascendency take care of our single target issues. For this we're utilizing two things: the Chieftain's Hinakora Ascendancy node and the new Warlock Penance Mark. Hinakora's gives us a chance on kill to create a huge explosion based on the max life of whatever we killed, but the chance is incredibly low and so unreliable. And on bosses without minions, it is entirely impossible. However, in this league, we have all new ascendancies that we get to use on top of our normal ones. One of them is the Warlock of the Mists. It has a skill that grants us a mark. This mark skill causes marked enemies to spawn phantasms when hit. These phantasms are things that we can kill, and therefore things that we can proc Hinakoras on, and we can get a huge ignite from that proc. Now, it's worth saying here that the build is risky since we still don't know the details of how this mark works. Things like a high cooldown on this mark could make it feel really bad, while a very low cooldown on that mark is going to feel incredible. Alright, so let's talk build. We are utilizing a staff with an essence mod to give us Fire Burst. This will take time to get, but it gives us a fire explosion on hit that we can proc with Herald of Thunder. Big shout out to MB Extreme who put this build together last league on an elementalist and gave me the idea to employ it this league. Now, to smooth out clear, we're also going to be using a Barracks Respite. We proliferate ignites even further than the original proliferation. With just these two items, we are already ready to go and have everything we need to get started on our autobombing. Because we only need these two items, all we need to focus on now is damage and defenses. But before we dive into the defenses that I picked, let's talk about leveling. Since we can't go autobomber until we have an Essence of Hysteria, we will need a way to get to at least mid-maps. No problem. For the record, any ignite build will work up to this point, so feel free to do your own thing if you don't like the plan that I have. What I've tested with is a combination of Armageddon Brand and Fire Trap all the way into yellow maps. Armageddon Brand is going to be used for clear and Fire Trap for the single target. I also like to use Righteous Fire through leveling in the axe, but since this is going to change a little bit, we'll be careful with how we are using that. I also drop it as soon as it starts being uncomfortable to sustain and switch over to Fire Trap. Once you are in maps, you have two options. Either rush Essence and farm your own Hysteria, or buy one from someone else. Farming one should be pretty easy since you can get any of the special essences and then reroll it for a Hysteria. Then just slap that on a 6-socket staff and away we go. We don't even need to link it. Since so much of our build is reliant on Hinakoras, we really only have two things to gear for: ignite damage and defenses. For defenses, I'm planning on leaning into the Warlock of the Mist life reservation and going low life. Determination will be on our Eternal Blessing. Petrified Blood, Herald of Thunder, and Purity of Fire will be reserving in our life, and that brings us all the way down to 49% life. This is something that I'm okay with dealing with until we can put in an Enlighten, and if we get an Enlighten level 4, it'll bring us back up to 55% life. Paired with low life, we are going to combine 3 defensive uniques. Number 1 is the Formless Flame Helmet, which increases our armor by our overkept fire res. Since we're going Chieftain, stacking a bunch of fire res honestly just makes sense. The second is the Fourth Vow. The Fourth Vow allows armor to apply to chaos damage hits and gives us a little bit of life regen. And the last is a Divine Flesh Keystone granted by the Glorious Vanity of Zibakwa. This is going to make it so that half of the elemental damage we take as chaos damage instead, and that means that half of the elemental damage we take also gets armor applied to it. What this combination really does for us is gives us a great deal of armor, makes that armor applied to chaos damage, and makes half of our elemental damage get taken as chaos, which means the armor is applied to that too. Repairing that with as much life and life regen as we can comfortably get, and a touch of block from our staff. Altogether, the build feels great while mapping and fighting some bosses. Bosses with no adds are painful and slow right now, but my hope is that with Penance Mark, that problem is solved. Let me know what you think of this build in the comments below. If you want to check out the POB, it's in the description. And if you want to just hang out and see what happens with this build, consider subscribing or stopping by my Twitch this weekend while I'm playing the build. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have an incredible League start.